All right, sounds like a plan. Well, for the record, let this be the official start to the prequel for In the Shadow of the White City as a great and sudden change. We open with Seth having settled into his office for the evening. His feeding has gone extraordinarily well. These Midwesterners, for lack of a better word, are very obliging. He has managed to make several connections with people who are involved with the blood trade because here is not so much the circulatory system, though he's sure their fingers are entwined. There is its own system of blood czars and dealers and suppliers. There's an entire several different chains of supply and demand that overlap and enmesh and move and mold between each other. As such, for persons such as himself who are catch as catch can on a normal average day, this has been a boon above boon. Not only is it the watered down, triple cut, stolen blood from hospital and medical centers, but there are also areas where the full unleaded is captured and stored away. There's a huge processing center in, as far as he's aware, that's Forest Park or Park Forest. He's not sure. They all meld together. And there's another huge processing center somewhere in Indiana. What the exact whereabouts he's managed to keep himself from learning solely because the more you know, the worse things look. And why look a gift horse in the mouth?
Right. And also, he picked this location because of all the venues that are in the little strip mall he's living in, as well as the hospital that's a 5-minute drive away.
Yeah.
He played
Ingalls.
head.
Ingalls is a level 3 trauma unit, which means that they do have helicopter trauma victims delivered. They have most of the smaller emergent care patients within their network. They are one of the largest in the area. And while most immediately think of the medical center in downtown Chicago, in a pinch, and in more than a pinch, when there's a little bit more than a life on the line, you're trying to save someone's quality of life as well as get them there as quickly as possible. Ingalls is definitively the place. Speaking of Ingalls, in his attempts to build his reputation and the utilization of his ghoul to spread word far and wide, whether it's the down and dirty, kicking open the door and dragging a person out by their ear, or whether it's the long range surveillance, he has begun making a significant name for himself. That name being someone is something that can get things done with decorum, tact, and most impressively, a level of professionalism that makes questioning the outcome all but unneeded. As such, just like in the books of yore and movies of old, there's a knock upon his stained glass door.
Come in, it ain't locked.
That seems fairly well ill thought, James says as he steps into the office, taking a quick glance behind the door and surveilling the entirety of the room. He pauses in the doorway, allowing it to frame him, his salt and pepper, almost completely white hair, and a beard of a matching, finely coiffed style He waits for a moment before closing the door behind him. I am sure you are aware as to who I might be.
Well, Chantry was never good at holding rumors, Mr. Rich. I do understand where you stand in the pyramid.
Excellent. That means we can forego the bulk of why I'm here, what brings me this way, all sorts of those questions which will delay the inevitable, and that being that I come to offer you both a significant repayment for your services and a job most interesting and deadly potentially.
Well, I'm always looking for work, and I never shy away from work coming from the Chantry.
Good. Your recent arrival here within the last few years has not gone unnoted, but as you are aware, unlike our brothers and sisters within the city as a whole, we do things a little differently. I believe in leaving each of us to our own best impulses as much as possible.
Well, some call it trial by fire. Other people say it saves money on room space at the Chantry Hall, but I'm good either way. I like having my own office.
That's a very good thing, and I have taken notice of that as well as your definitive independence. This is all very, very good as far as I am concerned. As far as you, that is yet to be seen. You have not made the rounds nor joined us for any of our tea times.
Well, the kind, they keep cheating on each other and keep skipping out on bail, so I've been a busy little Tremere here down in the dumps. But I do regret missing some of the gatherings of late, and being on the outskirts of this new republic and whatever Dalton is calling itself this week. I haven't had a chance to interact with too much of the powers that be. Basically, I've been getting my orders from Oren.
Yes. Yes, unfortunately. Unfortunately, Oren is as independently minded as many of our ilk, and his expeditions into the wild, they are fraught as all such things are. I don't approve, but it is not my place to approve. That's for him and his maker to decide. As long as he hasn't transgressed, and he has not. He's been tactful, been respectful, and that in and of itself is a feat.
Well, Oren is the product of too much money and being too big of a nerd. He has time and resources to go out and hunt down vagaries and rumors. I only hear from him like once every other 2 months. So I rely on messages from the Chantry to let me know what I'm supposed to be doing. And the Chantry doesn't need me until it needs me, but when it needs me, I'm here. That's what I've always seen as being important.
Yes, Father John mentioned as much. He's found you relatively interesting. You've assisted with no small few of his flock with their issues. He speaks to your competency. I find myself having a difficult time getting right to the point, as this is a matter most personal for me. I even reached out to our extended, though distant cousins, the family, in regard to potentially rectifying the situation. One of their children, looking to make a name for themselves, took my case, took this matter, and I have not heard from them, which does not speak well to their success.
Well, when we're dealing with matters that Chantry cares about, there's a 50-50 chance that somebody's not coming home.
And I fear that this may be the position I place you in. I would prefer if you did live, if you do live, and you are able to successfully accomplish that. I wish, but I am perfectly okay accepting that this may be a step too far. And I don't believe in beating around the bush unless, of course, I absolutely have to. So you must accept and understand that is where I stand. That this matter, as personal as it is for me, could result in your final death. This matter, as personal is for me, is entirely personal and in need of the strictest decorum.
Well,
How much?
I can tell you that if things go bad, you're not going to read about my passing in the Chicago Tribune. But I also tell you that on the bottom line, you're hiring me for information. You want to know what happened, why it happened, and I will endeavor not to die until you know those answers. So if it comes down to it, I will beat feet to make contact with you before the worst can happen. The information is all, after all.
Yeah. Yes, it is. I'm glad that we understand each other, and I'm glad that you do have that level of professionalism. I. How much have you been made aware of in regards to our structure here in the south suburbs?
Well, I know that the Republic, they're calling themselves right now, is a loose coagulation of demons split between different power brokers. They've cut that part of this township into little controlled areas. They have their little neutral area in the Willamette Woods. And wait, I'm sorry. I'm from Boston. It takes me a minute. Calumet Woods. They have their little neutral zone there, whatever that means, where they can meet without trying to kill each other. I'm hoping the theory is.
You're absolutely correct. It is an Elysium like none other. It is an inviolate place to meet on common ground. I'm actually quite fond of the way that they have decentralized their leadership in their territories. It works for me. I'm able to conduct and execute my duties as region of the south suburbs. I am able to conduct my experimentations, and I'm able to utilize their fractured state so that none are too curious as to what it is that we seek this far from the gleaming tower.
Well, that's always an advantage for us. If we're dealing with 12 leaders against the pyramid, the 12 leaders are always going to be led to confusion. Dalton looks, from what I can tell, Dalton is just a mess. I mean, it's a single power structure, which would say it would be more in line with the tower, how I was raised. But they don't have a clear chain of command. Their chain of command basically seems to be they have a chain and they beat you until you do what they command. So it's a bigger singular thing from what I understand. But, I mean, outside of my investigations in there, I haven't seen any really clear leadership other than the very top. At the very top, things are clear, but once you get one or two steps south of the very tippy top, things get a little muddled.
I am glad you have not been found prowling through Dalton. They require a slightly defter touch. Their illusion of chaos has led quite a few astray. They are far more fractured than they once were, but as you state, the clear head, of course, is Jennifer. They are a singular entity, though Nicole challenges as often as she is able. And Dwayne, if he had his way, would strike from the very earth each and every kindred that traipses through without Jennifer's controlling of his leash. Luckily, Dalton has his own attraction and allure, though far less with Von Evans' departure from this coil. My childer, Everett, has chosen the place as his home. It was a fleeting fancy of mine to become involved, and so I offer my services to Geneva when needed. I offer my counsel when it suits me, and my counsel has protected Dalton and mine own interests there, as well as my childhood. Unfortunately, things have reached a significantly increased fevered pitch, and my child, in efforts to strengthen diplomatic ties with Chicago, has been assigned a task to which I believe they may, in the company of their peers, be ill suited.
Well, sometimes when faced with a problem, if the problem changes, you've got to put in the other pitcher. You can't always be throwing from the left side.
No, and that is what brings me here today. Everett has never gone this long without reaching out. Everett was my poison pill for Dalton to take eventual control. His disappearance and lack of contact while on this foolhardy mission to strengthen diplomatic ties has me, for lack of a better word, petrified that he has met his end. It is all that I can do to not lash out, to avenge him, to avenge my plans. And yet, without knowledge as to what truly happened, I would be 100% in the wrong. I would dash my plans out of an emotionality which I am normally not possessed of. I need definitive knowledge, whether he lives, whether he is thus far successful, and if not, whom was the cause, so that instead of a pyrrhic failure, that I can plan for and execute some measure of success.
So you want to find out what happened to him. If he ran or if he died. If he died, you want to know not only who did it, but who caused it and why.
Yes.
That way, your repayment of this debt will be directed in the right direction.
Correct. Because as it stands, it is all that I can do to not decimate Dwayne. It is all that I can do to not vent my anger, based in fear, against the vast populace of Dalton. This would not be the best course of action, as upon doing so I would need to leave the area. Because while Dalton is perceived as independent and will always continue to be believed independent, they are wholly in the service and pocket of Prince Jackson.
Well, you can't step away from the Prince of Chicago very easily, and this place is too close
Yeah.
to consider itself truly independent. At any point, the tower could fall on this place. But I think you're right. Decimating the population in Riverdale and Dalton would have negative repercussions that would reach out for a while. Historically speaking, that kind of retribution has not gone well. Better to have a targeted response that sends a very clear message.
That is my hope. And I am hoping that my fears and my vision, my premonitions are metaphysical, that they are metaphorical, and that he has not left this coil. He means so very much to me. He means so very much to my plans. He means so very much to Pyramid as a whole.
Okay, best case scenario, I find Everett. Where do you want him put? Because if I find him, I'm dragging him out of whatever hole I find him in and getting him away until you can talk to him. I have a bit of a hidey hole here, but is there any place in Riverdale or Dalton you consider safer? That if I do find him alive, I can put him there and pass that information to you.
He stands up and reaches into his hip pocket, producing a small notepad. The notepad is bound and encased in a dark tan leather. The scent of it lets you know that it is, in fact, as old as it immediately appears. And the vellum inside is thick enough that it would be easily confused as cardstock. From his inside pocket, he produces a pen of the sort of craftsmanship you don't see every day. It is clearly what some families would consider an heirloom. Its jade looks 100% authentic, and he scrawls in a very lilting, very concise script an address. It is in Riverdale. It is on the northeastern edge of Riverdale, just outside of Dalton itself. This is where you might deposit him so that he will remain safe. I hope that this is the case, and if not, he underscores that address and then he jots down a phone number, though it takes you a second to realize that it is in fact a phone number, as he uses the old BR and several numbers afterward instead of spelling out the actual phone number. Now that we understand that you will be taking this assignment, all of my concerns laid out, and our fallback location as well as the means of contact, I suppose, and he sits again, it is time to discuss your method and manner of payment.
Well, the method is pretty standard among our kind, I guess. A little bit of cash, always appreciated, because it ain't much, but they charge rent for it. But also, I don't find myself having the time away from my office and my work here to get to the chantries as much as I'd like, to peruse the libraries, to do the studying that I would like. And he vaguely waves a hand over to one bookshelf that has some vaguely metaphysical texts and points a finger to the floor, partially covered by an ugly square carpet, is an actual warding circle that is obviously a practice piece. It is not a active circle right now. If I could get limited or supervised instruction by one of the academics you trust, I would like to eventually be more than an apprentice within the chantry.
This is understandable and can be arranged with either myself or my upper pyramid associates. I by far have the strongest relationship with Cone and Gary, but as far as tutelage, there are none better than Sylvia. She has a genius level intellect with far too little fear, and that has netted her no small amount of consistent success in tutoring and advising when it comes to matters of magics.
So what you're saying is she's not afraid if a student goes a little over the edge and tries something they shouldn't? She's brave enough to stand there and watch?
She's far more than that. I'm not sure how much of our incidents of most recent history has reached your ear, but less than 2 weeks ago there was a small, full-fledged monomancy between the various in-house schools of thought. In the resulting turmoil, Sylvia was responsible for torturing more than a few of our upper pyramid elders. Her actions forced Dusable into an armistice between our in-house schools of thought. So much so that the outliers have been absorbed into either Sylvia's camp or Erichto's camp.
Well, that definitely sounds like somebody that I could learn from. I don't spend a lot of time in the chantry, so I don't get a lot of time to spend on the vagaries and the nuances of magic, but out here in the real world, away from the chantry safety and housing, some more aggressive forms of magic might be prevalent. My own studies have led me down into magics that are more appropriate to what I do for a living. So somebody else who already has those skills, that would definitely be something I'd be interested in learning.
I will, upon your success, reach out to both Cone and Sylvia in regards to whatever assistance they might offer, and I will also extend the uses of what knowledge that I am immediately and intimately aware of, provided it is of assistance to you.
I've never found a time where somebody from the higher reaches hasn't been advantageous for me to listen to. Most of my progress results in listening to Oren, and while he is powerful, he's basically a nerd. I've learned more from the more aggressive types that have actually helped me on the day-to-day. Not to say anything about Oren being bad, his knowledge of the art is stupid, staggering, but his relationship with the real world has definitely been deterred when he's sitting on that giant pile of money and living with all those damn books.
I will reach out to Oren as well. Perhaps there is some proper trade we can arrange. His studies into the nexus and ley lines are, while not quite as considerable as Karen sounds, are interesting, especially in combination with what I have focused on. There, those places of power, it would be nice to have more operational knowledge.
Well, I can tell you that Orrin's library is sick with maps. He might be someone who would spend time and resources in that effort without any request for recompense other than being able to keep a copy of the knowledge he finds.
You speak very highly of him.
As sires go among our ilk, Orrin has not been bad. He's not been stubborn or jealous of his information when I've asked for it, and he's been honest when I've asked about things that would be outside of my habit of study.
And if you were to put a finger on your habits of study, which pursuit immediately comes to mind?
I don't know whether Orrin has personally talked to you or whether you investigated with him about my turning, but I was a policeman in life, and in unlife, I really haven't seen a reason to change that vocation. So I spent a lot of time with Kine and low level of our people investigating things that are of minimal import, encroachment on dements, haven break-ins, unfaithful lovers. That is my bread and butter, as the kind say. So my magical studies have been slow, and I tend towards studying a lot for many days in a row and then not studying again for 2 or 3 weeks because I'm on another case. And most of the magics I study and follow up on are ones that I've heard about or read about that involve what I would be doing on a day-to-day basis. So, the ritual I recently learned that I was very happy to get a hold of was the blood walk, which allows me to trace people. And I've heard there are better versions of that ritual that would allow me to trace them faster, better, more kinds of people over longer periods of time and such. So that's where my area of study has always been, is those things related to peacekeeping, you might say. And ever since I was turned, I've stayed in the business of tracking down problems. And I see myself in the future being that kind of person within any city I live in. I was never good at politics. The only reason I made detective is because I was young, good looking, and got lucky on a case. But once I was a detective, I was really good at it. And I'd like to keep doing that. I'd like to keep investigating wrongdoings or problems and correcting them.
Interesting. I'm sure that Fairmont would find you a bird of a similar feather. He is a similarly minded law and order member of the Chantry. Dusabo has recently promoted him and raised him in rank, though I fear his practical aptitudes are far ill-suited to the task before him. I will share this with you. Dusabo is a changed man from when I knew him years ago. He has recently, within the last 10 or so years, sought to clamp down on the Chantry's control of the borders of this world. We had, until recently, kept in storage several minor and mid-level spirits that inhabited the Shadowlands near most of our Chantry spread across the Chicagoland area. Recently, there's been the spiritual equivalent of a jailbreak, and due to the changes in Dusabo and how Eridoa and he sought to deal with this matter. Most of our brothers and sisters in the upper chantry are busy in the capture, minimization, and occasionally destruction of these spirits. So most of us are, from time to time, indisposed. I'm hoping to keep the bulk of your activities from reaching anyone else's notice, so my reaching out to Cone and Sylvia will be as surreptitious as I can make them. As such, barring an emergency, I'd like you to continue your self-exile. I would like you to remain busy, lest you be pulled very much into the happenings of the Chantry in Chicago. Their recent fire issues and the breaking of several boards and anchors at the Golgotha Chantry. I believe having an agent aware but untouched by would be most effective, be most helpful.
So, to put it in a light, you, the higher ups, are currently dealing with a more ephemeral problem, and the problem that you're hiring me to deal with is a more blood and feathers type of problem. And in the course of me looking at this problem, you would prefer me not to call on the chantries, but to keep working like I normally do with Kine and low-level fangs in my area. So
Yes.
word doesn't trickle up.
Yes, that exactly.
Okay.
Not sure. Again, I'm not sure how much has reached your ears, but we have, in the midst of this settling of issues between the various schools of thought, there has been significant upheaval combined with the damages and assaults that we've received, and DuSable not involving himself, not pursuing the open vacant Primogen Council seat. It raises a lot of issues, and our head may be changing shortly. As I understand, Sylvia is nearly to the point of declaring an outright attempt. She has lost a step along the pyramid and has been effectively demoted, but her skill is undeniable, and eventually she will again be one of the top Tetras of the Chantry. If she again accedes to that 12th rank, she will be able to challenge DuSable for leadership.
Okay. I can see where dealing with whatever's happening down here in Dalton Land would definitely cause ripples that would be counterproductive to whatever is happening in the pyramid. And if the pyramid got directly involved, it would be detrimental to what's happening down here. So
Yes.
I'll make it a point to make sure that as many of my dealings as I have down here will stop short of the Baron or advisors level. I'll try to keep it in-house as much as possible.
That is much appreciated. I'm glad that you possess the insight to know as such. I will leave you to your evening because there are still quite a few other steps that I need to attend to. You wouldn't have had the opportunity to speak with Caitlin, would you?
No, I don't believe I have. Not locally. Anybody local with any kind of real power always tends to reach up to get the problem solved. Very few of those with name recognition seek out my help. but I have heard of big problems going on. I mean, obviously, I knew the bees were buzzing in the hive. I just didn't know why. You're telling me things that are making a lot of things make sense. Who locally would you like me to make contact with?
As much as it seems counterintuitive with their ephemeral, constantly building castles in the sky, I believe that Nicole may be the best source of information. Made the mistake of utilizing our distant cousins instead of perhaps going there directly, and she, much like most of the Heaton, tends to hold a grudge for that sort of thing. So I'd like her to not be aware that I did go outside of her purview. And so your end around could be very, very helpful to us, helpful to your case.
So, Nicole, where is she?
She's the owner and operator of the Piscateers Lounge. You may wish to dress a little more stylishly. She is a hedonist.
I have one suit for just such occasions.
That is a very, very good thing. I will leave you. I must find Caitlin before the night is over. I have unfortunate news for her in regards to our previous arrangements. If you do run across Caitlin Meadows, do yourself a favor and establish as much space between her as possible. Bad times are heading her way. And with that, he stands once more, smoothing his jacket back into place and moving towards the door. I look forward to hearing from you, Mr. McLarian. And he eases out into the night.
When the door closes, I'm like, oh man. Ugh. Just like every police chief I've ever dealt with. Okay, so he gets out while James had the very nice ornate. I have a 1995 issue leather-bound police notebook with a cheap 3-ring binder insert. And I transfer all the information, addresses, phone numbers, and all the names. Nicole, Caitlin, the Piscateer. I make notes about Sylvia and Cone. And I make notes about where I want to start. Because this is all going to kick me in the butt.
Most assuredly. There's never anything begun with so many potential players and so many fingers that ever ends with any significance of good. The last time you've dealt with this many named individuals as the opening and starting pool, while the case was successfully closed, every person that you interviewed, every person that you followed, ended poorly.
Yep. I'm going to have to definitely look at trying to find out who the lower level players are, as opposed to trying to get on the top rung. I want to get a look at this sick bird from underneath that chassis. So I'm going to go through the files I have hidden behind the Salem's Lot poster about any local names that I know that might be attached to either the Chantry or Everett, what he might have been up to in the last couple of days.
Well, there's a certain beauty to being a padfoot, to being a gumshoe. That benefit and the bonus of having that outlook provides certain certain skills and gifts. One of those skills and gifts is to be everywhere and nowhere, to have fingers in and throughout the community without all of the fingers pointing definitively back towards you. In this particular case, while you didn't let on, you have had several passing run-ins with Everett. Everett Yeager has been a fixture on the party circuit for the last 20 years, based on your previous investigations. Everett is the most rakish of rakes that you have ever come across to call themselves a member of the Chantry, be a member of House Tremere. Everett, on the surface, is closer to being a toreador than to being a stereotypical member of the Chantry. That bit of understanding sets Seth's expectations.
Lower and higher at the same exact time, because it gives me a lot of places to look and question. But, I mean, he has a Tremere's natural disconnect with the flamboyant loudness of the Toreador lifestyle. Okay, so definitely the Piscator. Gonna have to check out Nicole's place in a hurry. I haven't seen any names cross over with Everett, but the Piscator is the best place in town, at least on the Dalton side of things.
Yes, ever since the loss of the Queen of Spades, it has made an uptick. Now, from the outside, the Biscuiteers looks exactly as you would expect, the place you would never want to go. Those who have actually been inside know that it is so much more than that. It is an entertainment club of a very much deserved ill repute, but it is also some of the most expensive, tasteful, and classy excess that you have ever had the opportunity to share. The Piscateers in and of itself, as far as most people are concerned, is just a local fishing club. And on the first floor, it seems exactly the sort of place where you would never find a toreador. However, being a man of means and knowledge, you know that down the steps is the local area's largest dungeon. It's a dungeon of finery, dungeon where one could go for complete and total excess and secrecy. Most of the local city government officials who are not in loving long-term marriages have visited the place. Most of the kindred swing by for the relatively free obtaining of meals. And those who don't swing by for the obtaining of meals swing by to soak in the ambiance of actual Piscateers lounge itself. There's a homey quality to the first floor, and it is often easy enough to find the owner operating as either a bartender or a hostess, both on the main floor as well as the floor below. In the early hours of the evening, it is quite easy to find Nicole behind the bar, pouring a drink, lending an ear, reaching out and connecting. And later in the evening, it's often easy to see Nicole traipsing the actual Piscateer's lounge finery that accentuates her form and hides every detail, keeping it dancing in the imagination.
She's a Toreador.
Yes, she is a woman of extremes, and both of which seem suited and minded toward hospitality. It seems as if, not to be too stereotypical, but social interaction seems to be her art.
But the Piscateer is definitely upscale from what the Four Queens was.
Yes. Yes, it's not as The Queen of Spades was the Disneyland and Las Vegas all rolled into one. It was a place where large acts would come, put on sets and shows, and they'd have often firework displays outside. It was the place to be seen. Von Evan was the king of spectacle and splendor, and whatever happened there that caused its closing, some say destruction, has left a scar in Dalton, the major place for entertainment of all true excess is no longer in operation. Von Evan has not been seen since the incident at the Queen of Spades. There's lots of rumors floating around, but you don't give credence to rumors.
No. Trust but verify everything. Okay. So, I'm going to be playing in the Dalton side of things, which... a little more landmine than Riverdale. But... the recent loss of the Four Queens would have... or the Queen of Spades would have lessened internal tension a little bit. Some people would have gotten relief from that. So hopefully things are not as squirrely. So yeah, definitely the Piscator is going to be where I'm going to start.
All right, would you be so kind of just go ahead and roll intelligence and occult for me, please?
There's another reason why he hasn't advanced very fast. Where is the dice? There it is.
In your understanding of the general genetic makeup of Dalton, Nicole is the holder of hands, the giver of shoulders, and various other things that keep people coming back for more and more. If anyone has seen anything, it would be Nicole and her childer, a much seen member of the Clan of Roses. Dia. The two of them would most definitely be able to point you in the right direction to get things moving.
So, yeah, I'm going to head up. Basically, I'm going to cut through Riverdale and spend as little time in Dalton so I can use 142nd to get across to Nicole's.
Yes. Yes, and in the doing, you're able to pass by the Adonis and some of the local mainstays and realize that, yeah, the night has begun. There are cars pulling into parking lots. There are people stepping out in their evening finery. There are still folks moving in and around the major street, which is 142nd, which is one of the major streets here. But more so than anything, the immediate change from Riverdale into Dalton is one of moving from complete and total rural aesthetic to one that is urban light. It is barely not Chicago. The architecture, the street swagger, the noise is very much reminiscent of the city proper. Just a hair slower. It very much wants to be more than just the village of Dalton, yet it is clear that there's not enough people that live in the area for it to be more than the village. But as one of the major villages of the township, it shows where their leanings are.
They're trying to go corporate.
Oh, yes, very much so. Corporate and still keep the southern aesthetic, the southern appeal, which is one of the many things that happens in the township as a whole. Most of the families go back several generations, and most of those families that have been part of the village of Dalton for years originate from places due south, further and deep enough into the south that they are part of the Dixie Belt, or part of Long, or part of backwoods Mississippi, and they've come north, and they came north looking for opportunity. Not much was the commonality, most of the stories. People came from other places because it was Chicago, but it was not. It was far enough away to not get mugged in the night, and close enough that you could see the lights on the right night. Dalton, much like Gary, was a city of industry, except for unlike Gary, its industry was not steel, it was not working iron, it was contracting. It was building homes, making bricks, making the polycarbonate necessary for certain pipes, making it was a city that made things that were used on a daily basis. Predominantly brick and masonry. There are also plastics factories, the chemical plants, and even still, even to this day, Dalton had more per capita entrepreneurs and single proprietary businesses than any other village or city within 20 miles.
As he's going down 142nd, he is consciously aware he's passing near the Queens on his way to the Piscator.
Oh, yes. And the Piscator, it's squat, brown, basic brick building, looking to all the world like the last place you would like to be seen. It looks as if it is exactly what it is, a facade, danger. Though the danger here is all done voluntarily and consensual. So easing into a parking slot along the eastern side of the buildings and stepping out, the strip, as always, looks a little sparse in and around the Piscators. The small dome of security cameras, almost invisible against the dark brick. Its garish, old school beer neon signs in the wind, making it seem as if this is the watering hole where hope comes to die. It appeared as if it's the sort of watering hole where old men spend their early evenings and afternoons talking about glory days. Upon entering, you see a wide strata of individuals, from jeans and everyday work attire to a few people traipsing through in two-piece Armani. There's Balenciaga. There's enough tags and names here that you know that people spend weeks of salary to look for. They're all rubbing elbows.
He knows because he ate the cheap bag blood for 2 weeks to buy the suit he's wearing. He's dressed in a bespoke fitted suit in the 90s style with a vest underneath it, black silk tie, and an actual London fog trench coat, not the one he normally wears. This is the one he wears when he doesn't think he's going to get dirty and needs to look clean.
Excellent.
Yeah, he has made an effort. Like I said, he has the one suit. He's going in unarmed, but his baton and pistol are back in his ratty piece of crap car. So if he has to make a fast escape, at least his car will have armament for him. And he's going to do a slow circuit in the more publicly known areas, just to get a feel for the vibe of the place. He takes advantage of the fact that he has Amazon. He pulls out a cigarette, and he has one of the electric lighters that Zippo makes to avoid, lighting himself on fire, and lights a cigarette to more blend in with the whatever kind might be air.
Oh, that's easy enough to tell. You can smell it before you actually see it. There's a nice mineral oil whiff to certain portions of the gathered denizens. There's a certain wariness as they watch the door and each other, and you realize without realizing it, that those are undercover officers. They are clearly enjoying their evening. There's three pictures on the tables, one of them being almost completely empty, while another member of theirs waves over to the table, raising three fingers and questioning whether they should go down to two. Nod is given. You realize that those individuals are most assuredly whiling away an after bit of evening.
I have a few contacts in law enforcement. I make sure that any of the ones that might know of me don't notice me. So I avoid tables that smell of mineral oil and gun cleaning oil, just to make my way over to the bar. And I actually order myself a pint to keep on blending.
The bartender is a tall, statuesque, dark-skinned woman. Her brows looking immaculate, and you can tell that it is not something that has been upkept, meaning that it is not something that comes unnaturally to her. Her eyes are a dark brown flecked with green, strangely enough, and her lips smirks as you draw closer to the bar. Well, child, I swear to God, I know that you're not associating up here. You look like you are dressed to impress.
Well, Ms. Senator, I always try. It is your place. I don't want to embarrass you.
Oh, child, there's not much that can embarrass me after all these years. And the code, just fine. No need to be standing in no ceremony. A pint, you say? Now, do you prefer a real pint, or would you prefer what passes for one?
I'm trying to be inconspicuous today, so give me something from the East Coast, maybe a Yingling or something.
You have a very interesting idea as to what may seem from these parts. Let's do this instead. And she pours you a full-bodied red. It's not a stout, but it is immediately hitting the nose with the hint of nut and a hint of chocolate behind it, which is very rare for a red or for an amber. And yet, lo and behold, this is exactly what it smells like. It smells like a mix of chocolate and walnut, a hint of maybe coffee behind it. This here is from one of our locals. And while you may not truly enjoy the effects of the alcohol, taste on the tongue makes everything so much sweeter.
It's one of the blessings that I get to enjoy is I still get to taste it. I take a sip.
It is Nirvana in a glass. It is, you've had better beers, but you've never had one as chilled properly and poured exactly as it should with the proper amount of head. All of the gases releasing that very full, odoriferous flavor right onto. It makes toes curl how good that beer is poured and how sweet it tastes. It is sweet enough to leave that hint on the tongue and dry enough to not be cloying or leave any aftertaste. It is clear and crisp.
That is good beer. You spoil me.
Well, it is our job to spoil each and everybody we can. Now, you are not an unknown quantity. I make it my business to be aware of several individuals, and you have that look about you. And the fact that you avoided the police over there lets me know several things. So, you've come for information of some sort. What is it you might be?
Well, you know us too well. I gotta tell you, I have come asking a couple questions. There's been some rumors running around with my ilk. And I thought, knowing the person those rumors were about, you might be the one to ask. There's a certain... how can I befuddle this? There's a certain individual who shares family with me, but he shares tastes with you, and I figured he would be a near resident of your fine place, as opposed to where he's supposed to be at school with the rest of us little ones.
She leans down to the bar, and somehow in doing so, the black t-shirt that she's wearing seems as if it is suddenly mature and hugs and melds against her skin. Her jewelry is worker day, and it's clear that it's only worker day for her because you clearly spot that those are actual diamonds and not the small chips that most people aspire towards. Full quarter carat cut stones. She is wearing enough diamonds on the one wrist that would quantify someone taking out a yearly salary. If I understand correctly, you must forgive me if I'm a tad slow. You're speaking after the warlock who liked to frequent my establishment, Mr. Yang, him and his many paramours.
Yeah, it seems that Mr. Yeager has caused some consternation among my people about recent happenings, and they haven't heard from him.
I suppose that's quite natural, considering where he might be.
Well, there is great hope that the rumors are not fully true and vetted.
Oh, they definitely are true. He is a man of exquisite taste, though a bit more garish than my usual client.
You can blame that on his upbringing. You've never seen when my family gets together. Garish is what we do.
Oh, that's good to know that his apple does not fall far from the tree. In regards to this particular apple and that particular tree, I have it on good authority that he might have reached beyond himself. You wouldn't be here executing anything. James, would you?
No, I'm not here to execute anything. I'm just here looking into what he has managed to get himself into, and if there is a possibility I can get him out of it. I haven't been made aware of what friends he might have been playing with lately or what they may have been up to, but there is thoughts that he may have, as you said, gotten a little ahead of himself and done himself an injury.
Well.
So, yeah, I'm just investigating who might know the particulars of what he's done to himself and whether he can be extricated from that problem.
I see. How about this? Being as you were just looking after the poor dear little lamb, I will ask around and get whatever information I know gathered together. I might even bother to type it up, maybe send it in text. I need a favor, however.
Well, that is our way.
I am sure you have heard of the lovely Concordia White.
Concordia? I've heard rumors of her on the Dalton side of things, I think.
You should have. She is a beauty. She, however, is assisting with several things all at once. I recently pinged her phone, and she is on her way as we speak towards Indianapolis.
Why would would you go to that cesspool?
It is one of the fine and most known toreador strongholds in the Midwest.
I have never understood that compulsion. You got Chicago right here, you got New York, Boston.
Yes, but nothing's like Indianapolis. It is all roads in Indianapolis. And unlike Gary, unlike Springfield, Indianapolis has just enough of the old world charm that it can turn two bickering enemies into lovers over a certain freeness, an egalitarian justice in the air there. Concordia is on her way there. She is in the company of a very skilled, aged provocateur. If you were to make yourself available with all due haste, I will forward you where her phone was last pinged, and you ride to her rescue and assist her in all that she might need. I'm thinking it should take someone of your potential skill no more than a day, maybe less. And then when you return here, I will gather all bits of information that I can, and I will assist you in every way that I can, including what it is that you are seeking to do.
Well, I think that's a fair trade. And it may be a pit, but you're right, it's the middle of the state. Everybody goes there eventually. I might as well take my turn.
Yes. And do have a care. Cordia is a most loved member of us. She is a hedonist most special to her heart.
So mess with her and you're gonna stomp me?
Oh no, I would not dream of that, especially because I doubt you could pay my rate for doing such a thing. But I will ensure that like is visited upon like, and the information comes my way will be bent to ensuring you have the absolute worst reputation possible.
Well, in my business, reputation is everything.
As is mine. I aim to keep my word in all things once given.
Well,
so,
since you impress on me, go ahead.
She just reaches her hand across instead of get an offer of a shake.
I definitely shake her hand. And since you've impressed upon me the importance of your friend here, I might drag along a friend of mine who's more skilled at driving and less skilled at subtlety than I am. But I'll keep him on a leash unless I need to let him loose. Make sure your Concordia comes home.
For that, I will be most appreciative. I look forward to hearing from you once more. I will leave you to the drink. I have to prepare for my appearance elsewhere. And she leans back from the bar, taking a half step back, smirk playing lightly on her face. And the other bartender, who is quite lovely for a short redhead, who is clearly just barely above legal age. There is something about the absence of Nicole that makes the room seem far less friendly, far less cordial. The redhead is bubbly and vivacious, but there is something less. There's something less elevated. And the officers at the back table, at roughly that moment as Nicole disappears backstage to head downstairs, you can hear the voices begin to raise, and you can hear that it is very quickly turning sideways.
The energy is going dark within the space?
The energy is going raucous within the space. The classy restraint and careful, joyful, abandoned drinking and associating and carousing has turned more frat house and less theater. It has turned more someone's drunk uncle versus someone's elevated, you're classically trained artiste. It is everyone's a little colder, a little less animated, but more slovenly.
I lean to the petite redhead and ask her gently, not trying to invade her space. Is this normal?
Oh yeah, those guys, they're always fighting. But the security will be over with them in a second. Can I get you, what are you drinking?
It's something Nicole got for me from one of the private taps. Chocolate.
Oh,
If that helps. It's really good.
no, she has really weird taste. I've never worked with somebody that's so... She moves so slow, doesn't she? Let me get you something better. I got a shot of Rumplemint's that will definitely make everything better for you. It's like having Santa Claus come in your mouth.
Whoa! I have a little bit of work to do tonight, darling. Rumplemints is going to be outside of my league. Just give me a Jack back and a Yingling.
I don't think we have that beer. I don't know. Hang on. She crouches down, starts looking in the cooler underneath the bar. And you said Jack back, and it is clear that she took that as the beer that you were asking for. And she's looking from one cooler to the next. We've got this Double Jack IPA. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, darling. You have obviously been working in a far too nice a bar. A Jackback is a shot of Jack Daniels that backs up the beer.
Oh, no one ever says that. Why don't you say, give me a shot? Well, actually, a shooter is probably what you need to ask for.
Well,
Like, if you...
I'm looking at the concordia of random, very colorful things behind the bar, and I would be afraid to be that inspecific.
Oh, no. Everybody around here will understand. Like, if you want... Then it's going to be... We ask them whether you want tequila or, in my case, Rumplemint's. But there's this weird guy that comes in and all he drinks is... I don't even know what it's called. It's called Black House or something, but it's spelled wrong. Anyway, so one shooter of Jack Daniels. Now, why would you drink that? Whiskey makes your dick limp. Then she pours the shot. Clearly not accustomed to actually pouring freehand because she spills all over as she finishes the shot off in a rocks glass and hands it to you.
And you know what? Just a Budweiser in a pint. I don't want to tempt fate here.
A Budweiser? Okay. And do you want diesel or light?
Diesel.
All right, now we're talking. Have you dropped a shot of vodka in your Budweiser? It is so delicious. But anyway, here's your Old Man's Diesel. She opens the bottle and sits the warm pint glass next to it. And you can look at it and tell that it is not exactly a pint glass. The base is too thick. The glass is too thin. It is a pint-styled glass, but it is not a pint glass. You're pretty sure that it may be 13 and a half, maybe 14 ounces. Maybe.
Thank you very much, darling. I put 40 on the table because, wow, you can't fix stupid. And I get myself a little bit away from the bar just to let her have a little alone time. It's like, you know what? Good bartenders are so hard to find. I knock back the Jack, and then I do another circuit while I'm nursing the pint.
Please, guys, go ahead and roll which plus awareness as you make your secondary circuit.
Awareness? Yay!
There is always a telltale sign when someone's watching, and it's a cops have to do more than just watch. They not only watch, but they in their head interrogate and size up all in one fell swoop, and you are sure that's exactly what's happened with you on several occasions this evening, knowing that there was a table full of off-duty officers, but even more so as you make the secondary circuit on the steps leading up. Apparently, on their phone is a gentleman that you were hoping to not have to run into. Now, everyone talks about Dwayne as if he's some brooding beast, as if he's some ravenous animal willing to tear apart the kindred. It's so much worse than that. He's, as far as you are able to understand from everything you've heard, he's on a mission from God. He is a true believer in the monstrousness of kindred, which is what makes him the head of Dalton Security, their equivalent sheriff. All the worst people who trespass or transgress or who come to his notice, because he will do more than investigate. He is both at once judge, jury, and occasionally executioner, though far less than he would like. And he is sitting there into the world, these people who are not you, and the few officers who have not gotten 3 sheets to the wind. He is clearly watching the happenstance and clearly watching you.
Is when I notice that he's watching me, what is the distance between him and I?
About 30 feet.
Okay. So he's not like right there.
No, he's sitting steps, and everyone believes that he's just another one of the guys inside the building who are too busy on their phone to actually take part in the celebration.
Okay. Hold on just a minute. I gotta go deal with the dog. I'll be right back down. Okay, I'm back.
All right.
Just out of curiosity, would I know Dwayne's clan outside of his misdemeanor?
Yeah, he's not. She's not ashamed. He's actually very quite proud of being a child of a king.
Oh, goody! I bet know Hakeem and the sheriff, because that's gonna be great. I'm gonna continue my circuit, and instead of watching him directly, I'm gonna see if he's trying to make motions to anyone else, directing anyone in my direction.
Oh no, he's sitting, just watching. While he's watching the entirety of the bar, you are purposely one of his focuses, and i.e. the main focus in the particular moment, because he clearly hasn't made up his mind about you. They're hoping that decision doesn't happen, but if it does, you hope that it happens in your favor versus the very real and natural suspicion that most kindred hold towards others.
Okay, so my circuit's gonna take me around one more time, and as I come towards his end of the bar, I'm going to pass closer to him, within 10 feet.
As you ease closer, he looks more from the phone towards you. Finally, as you close to within that 10 feet, he slips the phone away and rests his hands one folded over the other in front of him, openly watching you.
Now he's just staring. He is observing with extreme prejudice.
Yes.
Well, I can either bite the bullet now, or I can wonder when the bullet's coming later. So I'm gonna bite the bullet now. At this point, I'm within 10 feet, and I doff my hat to him a little bit in a very, very nod/bow kind of manner.
Inclines his head, he licks his lips, and he looks towards the hallway, which clearly leads toward the restroom. And he stands and begins moving in the direction.
Not the invitation I was hoping for tonight, but it's the one I'm getting. I let him pass into the hallway out of sight of anyone else. And once he's cleared that, I'm going to follow him in. That way it isn't quite so obvious that we're both going to the same place.
Now, in most movies and most books, when you enter the restroom, he'd grab you, throw you against the wall. You've had it happen occasions, especially when dealing with local toughs, local police officers who believe that they have the lay of the land and they rule the land. Instead, he's actually washing his hands. Now some water wash over his feet. He lathers up all the way to the mid-forearm because he doesn't want his jacket wet when he throws it back. And you see that on both of his wrists as he's washing, there are tattoos, which is odd and kindred. Maybe he had them before his death, but all the same, the tattoos that are there are clearly script of some sort. And he finished washing his hands, running his wet fingers through his hair so he can get closer to his scalp. And then he takes a towel and dries them. I did not expect to see anybody else here. I was hoping to speak with Nicole. I saw you engaged with her. It made me curious.
Well, my curiosity is piqued as well, because obviously, as a local, I've heard of you. I've never had the opportunity to speak with you, and I figured since I was here and Nicole was done with me, I would make myself available.
Have you heard of a bounty hunter named Frost?
Frost? Yeah, I've heard of him. I've worked with him. I've tried to put a leash on him once or twice.
I'd like to meet him. I believe he may have skills that I may utilize, especially with everything that's happened. We have been beset by poor actors.
Well, if it's Frost's skills you're looking for, he's usually willing to share those skills, and I can definitely put your name in his ear.
Excellent. That's good news indeed. You are aware of where my car yard is, correct?
Where your car lot?
Yes.
I have it in my notes back at the office.
Good. 2 nights from tonight, you will have him. We have a lot of work, and I'm sure that I could utilize it. It's nice having those who can operate during daylight hours.
I've found that to be useful myself on more than one occasion. We work well together, and he does get the job done. Just important.
I've asked.
Hmm?
I've asked as much. That's what took quite so long for me to make contact. Just verifying the information that has been made available to me.
Well,
how familiar are you with Rocio?
Rocio? That's not a name that's crossed my charts.
No, because you jotted it down as Roz, not Rocio. And she's a fixer for the family, Kata.
Oh. Them I know. Them I've dealt with.
I need to find her and several of her associates. Seems as if there has been more than a coincidence in regards to the recent loss of several high-ranking members, namely Cygnus
is my stock in trade. I hunt down answers, problems.
Yes, I've heard as much. And while I may utilize your skills at a later date, right now a forceful response to the evasion is necessary. And during the evening hour, it would be very clear as to where this message is coming from. Doubt is what I like to instill. So, 2 nights from tonight, have yourself and Frost a towing yard. We'll go from there in regards to the plot and plan to which his services will be involved. And for your services in this thing with this connection, I'll ignore the fact you didn't stop in and say hello to Jennifer.
I appreciate that. And at some point soon, I do wish to make myself more known within our dominance.
Excellent. Sounds like a plan. I look forward to that moment. You have an enjoyable evening. I have other kindred to kill. And he leaves.
Once I'm sure he's all the way out of the bathroom and back out of the hallway, I take a deep drink out of my beer. Well, that went better than I had hoped. Now I just have to talk Frost into it. No problem. Because, annoying the sheriff of Dalton won't be a problem if Frost decides to fuck off and go gambling in Atlantic City again.
And speaking of fucking off and gambling, there is the issue with catching up with where the phone was last pinged from Courtney White in her drive towards Indianapolis. Time is, of course, of the essence. As you finish your beer and connect with Frost, we will draw this prequel to a close. We look forward to seeing Seth Frost in action with our next episode. I want to thank you for sharing this time with me. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.